Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled HOA Moved In on My Uncle. About 25 years ago, my aunt/uncle moved into a new construction single-family home neighborhood on a half-acre. About 6 months after they moved in, he was informed that his neighborhood was being taken over by an HOA. He disregarded his HOA application as he did not wish to join. Not long after this, random neighbors began complaining to him directly about his boat and cars in his driveway violating HOA rules. He just informed the often rude people that he was not a member and that they would argue with him that everyone was a member. One of the major issues is that his driveway, garage and front yard was on the main level of his home, and the backyard dropped down a cliff to level with his basement and backyard. So he had no way to back his boat around the side of the home into the backyard. Eventually though, the HOA began harassing him with threats if he didn't move his boat to the backyard. His backyard had been closed off by a vinyl fence the HOA installed and lined another road back there. So one day my uncle decided to compromise by trying to take down a section of his back fence so he could make a gate for boat parking access. The HOA called the police on him for destruction of property. The police left my uncle with a warning if the fence was returned to proper condition by the end of the day. Uncle put the fence back up and placed his boat back in his front driveway. Now the fines started coming. Week after week, month after month. When the fines reached $10,000, the HOA filed a lawsuit against him. He countersued for the harassment and street access to his backyard. In court, the HOA showed the HOA boundary and showed my uncle's house was in the middle of the HOA, explained the violations and the police report filed over the back fence. My uncle explained that he never signed up for the HOA, moved into the neighborhood before the HOA existed, and never gave them permission to fence in his backyard, provided all mortgage documentation and a blank HOA application with the HOA's security stamp and date. The HOA argued that it didn't matter if he didn't turn in his application because he was within the HOA borders. The judge declared my uncle's property was grandfathered as private property and not part of the HOA. The HOA was to immediately take down their illegal fence on the back border of my uncle's lot. Since the HOA had fined my uncle $10,000+ in illegal fines, my uncle was owed $10,000+ in damages for the harassment. My uncle rebuilt his yard fence in see-through chain link with a gate where he parks all his toys in full view. He moved the boat from the driveway to his front lawn, let the lawn die, and paved it over, all 10 feet from his front door to the sidewalk. HOA neighbors in the decades since still approach him to complain, and he just tells them to take a walk knowing that there is nothing they can do to him. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I am really glad that this is not the case, that you are not automatically part of an HOA simply because your property is within the HOA neighborhood. Just imagine if everywhere in the United States little mini dictator governments would pop up under the name of HOAs and essentially start taking over the country simply because someone decided that your property is within the HOA boundaries and thus you have to join them. Really, for all my American viewers out there, I hope that will never happen. The next one was posted by user Infinite Emotions on r/Ripe Stories, and it is titled That Food is Perfectly Fine. Before I start, Ripe and only Ripe has my full permission to use this story. I was talking with a coworker at my new job and this story came up. This is a tale from retail and I cannot think of another job where something like this could have happened. Also, it still amuses me to this day, so I thought I would share it. This happened when I was working third shift at a gas station. The computer system, ordering, spoilage, sales information, etc. had been completely redone and had an odd glitch. If my manager attempted to order less than 10 of something, the computer would automatically add a 0 to the order after it was submitted. For example, if my manager ordered 3 tuna fish sandwiches, then the computer would change the order to 30 tuna fish sandwiches. Now, while this station was in a prime spot for a gas station, customers were looking more for their munchy fixes than for full meals. So we didn't sell a lot of sandwiches at the time. With that in mind, 3 tuna fish sandwiches were perfectly reasonable for a week. They only keep a week, less if there's cooler issues. But there was no way we could sell 30 in a week. One of my duties as third shift was to spoil out old food. No, it could not be donated. The store was not allowed to donate food. I don't know why. On this particular night, I had hauled a full-size trash can with a fresh bag over to the sandwich case, and I had hauled out the totes of sandwiches that couldn't be stocked due to room constraints in the sandwich case. And I will admit, that was a lot of spoilage. Easily enough to fill the can. I didn't like doing it, but I had to do it. It was my job and no one else was hiring at the time. I had just gotten into a rhythm of spoiling food out. We carried 15 different types of sandwiches, so there was plenty of product to get into a rhythm with when a man entered the store. The man saw scanning and tossing the sandwiches and freaked out. Started screaming about how wasteful it was to throw away all this food, how horrible the company was for letting all this food spoil, etc. And honestly, I agreed with him. I mean, I did it because I couldn't afford to get fired and I got around it any way that I could. When customers would ask me if they could have the spoiled out sandwiches, I would explain that as part of corporate policy, I wasn't allowed to give out spoiled food, but would be grateful if they helped me take out garbage. Nudge nudge, wink wink, but there was only so much I could do. Then he said, "This food is perfectly fine and I will prove it to you," and pulled a tuna fish sandwich out of the garbage can, opened the plastic and took a bite, only to spit it all out. He stared at me with the most affronted look and said, "This sandwich is bad." Without missing a beat, I said, "Yes sir, that's why they are being thrown out. I demand a refund." I stared at him for a moment. I couldn't believe my ears. He really truly seriously wanted a refund for a sandwich he had pulled out of the garbage. You didn't pay for anything. I admit it was not the best thing I could have said, but the sheer stupidity temporarily broke my brain. The next several minutes were spent with him trying to convince me that he needed to be paid for the pain of having bitten into a rancid tuna fish salad sandwich as I continued to spoil out old sandwiches, and pretty much ignored him until another customer came in. But that, my fellow ripe fans, is not the end of the story. When I showed up for my shift the next night, my coworker told me about this rude man who insisted that the store owed him a refund for a rotten sandwich. She had told him that she couldn't give him a refund without either A, a receipt, or B, the sandwich. She then told him that he would do better to talk to me about a refund since I was the clerk that sold it. I couldn't help but roll my eyes about it and told her the whole story. Her jaw dropped as she stared at me in disbelief, and we both had a chuckle about it before we went on with our work. I still chuckle about it. And yeah guys, I find that really interesting, or rather it's actually pretty sad, the amount of food that especially supermarkets have to throw away because they don't want to be held liable for potential food poisoning or anything if someone eats food that is expired. I think once I saw an article about this in the UK, and as far as I can remember, in the UK they do this a bit differently. I think there is something called the discount aisle or something in supermarkets and discounters, where you can, I guess, buy food that is just slightly expired for a much cheaper price. I think, at least if that is true, that is a very good concept that other countries should adopt. And the next one is titled, "Neighbors Tried to Sell Me a Baby." Being born and raised in Florida, I had seen my fair share of crazy neighbors and late-night partygoers knocking on the wrong door late at night. The Florida man meme is definitely as real in real life as it is on the internet. And by the way guys, that is one of my favorite subreddits in the entire world. And I gotta say, it does seem kind of enticing to do a video about that subreddit at some point. But anyway, none of the crazy things I have seen or experienced in Florida had ever been downright neglectful or unheard of, but that all changed one day when my neighbors showed up at my door in the middle of the evening. The couple that lived across from me were pretty wild. The girlfriend had recently given birth to their newborn baby and they had seemed to calm down quite a bit, but they were known for their loud parties and coming home late at night. Although they were sometimes annoying with their loud music and guests chatting up until the wee hours of the morning, they seemed harmless and had never done anything to me personally. As a matter of fact, they usually said hi to me and many of the other tenants in the neighborhood when they saw us leaving our houses for the day. I was completely baffled, however, when they knocked on my door one day asking me to buy their baby for $1,000. Yes, you read that right. My crazy neighbors wanted to sell their baby to me for $1,000. I was absolutely baffled. First of all, this was obviously very illegal and morally wrong. Second, although I did not have kids of my own yet, I could not imagine how a parent could simply just give up their child like that. While they had seemed completely coherent and sober, I could not help but wonder if they were under the influence of some illegal substance. This was wrong of me to assume, but I just cannot imagine any sane person willing to give up their kid like this and shamelessly try and sell their baby to a neighbor. When I had asked the neighbors why in the world they would give their baby up like this, they had stated that they were party people and a newborn baby just doesn't fit with our lifestyle. What? Every time they opened their mouth to speak, I was becoming more and more baffled at the situation happening before me. When I stated that they could put their baby up for adoption, they once again responded with something outrageous. According to them, the adoption process takes a while and costs a lot of fees and money. While I agree that the adoption process was pretty lengthy, I still cannot imagine just willingly giving up your precious newborn to someone you barely even know. Wouldn't you want them to go to a loving, caring home? Not that I was not a caring person, but they did not know that. They hardly knew that. Regardless of their reasonings and careless attitude, I agreed to take in their baby without taking their money. I thought to myself, if I did not take this precious new life, what would they do next, and who would they take their child to? Would the baby end up in the hands of someone dangerous? This ended in a wild night of events for me, because as soon as I took the baby and shut the door, the couple was running to their car and zooming off down the street. I was for the 5th or 4th time that night completely baffled. Would they even return to their house? Did they know the police would find out about this and come after them? Either way, I turned my attention to the crying baby and the small diaper bag they left. Upon further inspection though, I was horrified when I realized that the baby was wearing a soiled diaper and had been wearing it a while. I looked in the diaper bag and was even more mortified to realize that the only thing in there was a half pack of baby wipes and a rotten bottle of milk. What the hell? I was about to run out and go to the store, but I realized it would not be the best idea considering that I had a stranger crying, rash-ridden baby glued to my hip. So instead I just decided to order some baby supplies and have them delivered to my house, paying the extra fee for ASAP delivery. While I waited for the diapers and other supplies to be delivered, I knew that this baby needed to get out of her diaper. I had made the decision to undress the baby and take the soiled diaper off. I was heartbroken when I saw how red and inflamed the baby's skin had gotten from the dirty diaper. I'm no expert, but this was way beyond the normal diaper rash. Her skin was bright red, blistering, and looked absolutely painful. I did my best to put some moisturizing cream on her skin and wrapped her in a towel until I got the delivery. Luckily, the delivery had not taken that long at all, and in no time I was putting the baby in a fresh diaper with some baby powder. Immediately after this, I called the police. I had no idea what was going to happen with this child, but I knew that this was a bad case of child neglect and recklessness. The police officers showed up shortly after, and I gave them all the information that I had on the couple. I had let them know that they had quite the reputation in the neighborhood as party people, and after the girlfriend gave birth, they had not seemed to change much. I had also let them know that this was not the first time they had done anything outrageous, that I knew of at least, and that they enjoyed drinking up until late at night and doing drugs all day long. I often saw shady people going in and out of their house at all hours of the day. Sometimes I even witnessed them selling or buying drugs right outside their house. I had even described their car to them. I wanted to give them as much info as possible. The police officers took down all the info I had and assured me that it should not be too hard to find them since they had a confirmed residence and car model. I was devastated to learn that Child Protection Services would be taking the baby. It was sad thinking of another child going into the foster care system, but I knew that the baby was better off with CPS than with the biological parents. I was able to receive updates on the case as I was an active witness and provided them with the information. The police were able to find and arrest a couple within just a few days, and with many court dates and meetings later, the parents were charged with severe child neglect and they would do some time in prison. I was also happy to learn that the parents would not be able to adopt their baby, and I was also surprised to learn that the boyfriend was not even the biological father. The woman ran off after she got pregnant, and the biological father had been trying to find her ever since. He had no idea where she had been or that she had even given birth to their kid. Due to the sensitivity of the case though, they were undergoing the process to see if the biological father would be able to obtain full custody. The last I heard, which was just a few weeks ago, the baby was being taken care of by a lovely lady who had several other foster/adopted children, and the terrible rash had healed completely. And guys, if you have watched until here and enjoy the stories about crazy neighbors, then please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled, Dad would not let me go on holiday, so I quit and got a job with the competition. I, 30 female, worked for my dad when I was 16 as a sales rep. At 17, my 18-year-old friends were booking a holiday to Magaluf. My dad would not let me go as I was underage. Being 17 and disgruntled, I handed in my notice and applied to one of my dad's competitors. I got the job based on my experience and the previous accounts I had at dad's company. It was a bold move and a big F you to my dad. For 3 weeks when I worked, I noticed that my dad was really pissed, but later found the funny side. The whole family would make jokes about it, they still do. It did cause some tension sometimes as we would try and steal each other's customers. We always made up though, we were very close. Over the years I've been prompted a bunch of times and I now run the biggest branch in the country. I got a call this morning that the regional manager is retiring next year and I am up for promotion, so it is mine if I want it. This is when the money gets a bit insane. I will also be the first female and youngest ever RM this company has had. I am proud of myself and I have 3 kids. I had my first child at 19 and I have worked my ass off. My dad was really proud of me in the end. He passed a few years ago, but always joked that he was right to make me miss that holiday, as I would not have left his company and worked as hard as I did. He was 100% correct. To those saying that I was spoiled, we grew up in a rough area. This is where my parents are from and bought their first house. We only moved from this area when my brother came out at 14. He was jumped and badly beaten from a group of boys. I left school at 16 and was only really working with my dad until I found something else. I had helped in my dad's company since I was old enough to read numbers and make orders. I had paying jobs from 13, delivering papers, mucking out stables, babysitting, sweeping hairdressers, etc. And I rarely asked my parents for money, and when I did, I would pay them back. I saved my money, that is how I could afford the holiday, which I didn't go on, and I went the year after when I turned 18. If the job had really impacted our relationship, I would have left, but being 17, I didn't think this was going to be the start of my career. I was just feeling rebellious. It is completely understandable why he didn't want me to go. I probably also would not let my daughter go at 17. Me and dad had the best relationship right until the end. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist. which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.